So this is one scene in the show where this guy gets out of a car, and this group of teenage girls, and I'm not talking about like teenage like volleyball players or like rugby players or what have you, like teenage mean girl type girls, like basically just teenage teeny bopper girls. So these girls surround the guy and beat the snot out of him. Now I know we're in a very different era right now, but back in the day, basically it'd be like Officer. It was too dark. I don't know. I don't know who. I couldn't see very well. I'm dealing with a concussion. I don't know what happened. The last thing you want to say is a group of teenage white girls beat me up. I mean, maybe Ronda Rousey was in there, but I didn't see her. I saw a grown man getting beat up by the teenage girls. Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Jason Freeman, and I'd like to welcome you all to my channel. Now, in preparation for my review of the film Luther, Fallen Son, starring Idris Elba, which will premiere in select theaters on February 24th and on Netflix on March 10th, I'm going to watch and review all 5 seasons of the show. I'm going to say what I liked about the season. I'm going to say what I didn't really like about the season. Then I'm going to tell you why I think you should see the season or just skip it. Now, at any point, feel free to click the notification bell or subscribe to my channel to get more content. So, without further ado, let's begin. So the show Luther is a procedural cop show about a detective chief inspector named John Luther. In season 1, he uses his intellect and detective skills to capture a myriad of interesting / very disturbed criminals. So what I like about the show? Well, the first thing I liked about the show was its very dark tone. Probably the best way I can describe the show is if you take Law and Order, I would say it's in particular Law and Order Criminal Intent, and mix it with Game of Thrones, The Boys, those type of shows. There's very graphic violence. There's some gore. I watched it on BritBox, and so I don't know if if it's more cut on a different service. I know on the BBC they're pretty graphic with various things. When I was in England, I watched this. Well, I saw some of the show called Naked Attraction, which, if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pretty graphic. But the point is that it's a very gory, very dark show. It's not even just in the scenes, in the subject matter, in some of the ways that people interact with each other. And I love that. They're not pulling punches. For the same way that people like, or same reason people like Game of Thrones, you don't really kind of sugarcoat anything. So something like Law and Order or CSI or NCIS is very sugarcoated. They only can go so far. This show goes as far as it's allowed to go. It's pretty dark. And again, I'm all for it. I mean, the body parts that are removed, their gruesome murders caught, you're looking at it front and center. And it's just, it leaves you a little bit shaken a bit at various points, especially because you don't always know what's going to happen. And so you're in a scene, it's like, are they going to really go this far? And there's one scene in particular with a wife and a husband where I'm like, are they going to do it? And they did it. Just a little incentive to go check it out. But the point is, it's a very dark show, and so it's not something to be watched with kids at all, or people who aren't really into that type of stuff. I wouldn't watch with someone like that. But the point is, if you're into shows like Game of Thrones, like The Boys, this show will appeal to you. So what else do I like? Oh yeah, the writing. So one of the things I don't like about a lot of procedural like cop shows like NCIS or a Law and Order or CSI is that at a certain point you can just kind of predict. You don't have to watch the show. You watch the first couple of minutes and you know what's going to happen. They'll always have a twist in there here and there. But for the most part, you're going to kind of know, at a certain point, it's going to be pretty obvious who the killer and all that stuff is. With this show, because the way it's set up over it's set up over 6 episodes, it's connected episodes, and so you don't always know exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes they'll reveal the kill at the beginning. Sometimes you have to kind of guess at it. Sometimes it'll be kind of, a complete twist in there. Think again, kind of like with Game of Thrones, things happen sometimes that come out of left field, which is great, or not out of left field, but they come out of nowhere. They kind of catch you by surprise, which I think good shows do. And so, yeah, I think the writing is just amazing. And along with that, you have these complex characters. In particular, you have John Luther. So John is one of those characters that's very complicated. It's not just a matter of, oh, I like this guy or I don't like this guy. There are moments in where you're kind of like, you see the torture, you see the darkness in him. You know that he's kind of on the edge, and that makes him interesting. And then there's the surrounding people around him where, and I'll say this, there are points in which you hate certain characters, or the show sets it up to hate certain characters, and then they do something. It's like, oh yeah, I would do the same thing in that situation. I get them now. So it's not as easy of I hate this guy or I love this woman or this guy this whole time. They throw twists and twists in there to get you to kind of say, okay, it's a lot more complicated than what I'm seeing in front of me. There's other stuff going on. And so it's a complicated show. And it's really interesting writing, really complex writing. And I definitely get why this show lasted. And it lasted 5 seasons plus a movie. I get it. This really sets up a very interesting, very dynamic show. You get into this really interesting, very complex story that you want to know what happens next. So what didn't I like about the show? Well, one of the issues with, again, procedural shows, and I would say dramas in general that are designed for TV, is that they have to kind of pull you in and kind of grab you, and it can't be something that's going to kind of be kind of slow and plodding. And so with that, you get some pretty far-fetched things happening. So, for example, there is a situation where I'm not going to go too much detail, where they're trying to track this guy, and he traps some people, tracks the police in the area, and he causes this big, huge explosion. Now, imagine if this thing happened in real life. Imagine if you had this guy, this killer or what have you, and he set off a bomb in the middle of London. It would be international news, and there'd be like military and all kind of FBI people. No, they just kind of kept going with the case until they finally caught him. The one cop caught him. So it takes a leap of imagination, a leap of disbelief, suspension of disbelief to kind of go with the show. And that's kind of the issue. So you have this really strong, I would say like Shakespearean type show or story, and then you have to have these kind of silly procedural police elements in there. And so it's one of those things, if you can kind of buy into that a little bit and kind of be like, okay, I'll take this Law and Order stuff and take these little things here and there for a really interesting story that I was interested in. I can live with this kind of silliness here and there. But that's the one thing you have to get. This isn't like, an Oscar or I guess in this case, this isn't going to be one of those kind of high art type things. It's a very complex story, very interesting, but it's a procedural cop show, and it's going to have those silly elements. And of course, as with any kind of cop show, you're going to have to wrap it up in a bow, oftentimes at the end of the story. So you see season 1 of Luther or just skip it. So after watching the whole season, kind of going through the ups and the downs, I would say at the very beginning, it was a little bit kind of like, I don't really like this particular character here or there, and then as it got through the show and you saw what it's going to be, it was engrossing. And I definitely want to see season 2. So I would definitely say see season 1. It really sets it up perfectly. It gets you hooked. And so, again, the idea is I want to go through all 5 seasons. I want to kind of see the ups and downs of it, or if it's up all the time, that'll be awesome as well. But the point is, it has a really strong start. So watch season 1. I would say watch season 1 before watching the movie. Obviously, if you're set to see the movie, if you're going to already, you're seeing this right before you see the movie, go see the movie first. I think it's fine. From what they say, you don't have to see the movie first. But my point is, if you have the time, watch this season 1 at least first before seeing the movie. It's a really good season, and it sets up the characters. You get to see who these people are. And I'm being very ambiguous because there's a lot of mystery with it. Even from episode 1, I don't want to say too much, because if I say certain things, it'll give away certain important elements of the show. But again, there's certain characters that I just love, and they're not necessarily good characters. They're not people I want to hang out with in real life. I'll be terrified of them. But the point is, once you're watching it from the safety of like your TV screen or your computer screen, it's really engrossing, really interesting to follow. So I would definitely say watch season 1 of Luther. It's a really good show. In many ways, it's kind of like The Wire. I came to The Wire much later, after the show is already over, for the most part. And so, it's one of those things. I wish I could have watched it along with it, but it's fine. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. Thankfully, they're in these kind of like blocks of shows. So I watched 6 episodes here. I watched 4 episodes there. Season 1 is the longest season with 6 episodes. Everything else is like 4 episodes and 2 episodes. And so yeah, it's definitely watchable. Definitely bingeable. I binged it. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about seeing the rest of the show, and I definitely would suggest watching season 1 of Luther before watching Luther Fallen Son, which will premiere again in theaters on February 24th and on Netflix on March 10th. Now, as always, if you found any of that interesting or informative, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, please share this video. Also, if you have any questions about Luther season 1, please leave those questions in the comments section below. Thank you all for your time, and have a wonderful rest of your day.